Hey everybody, this is making use of Django Admin. The reason for this video is a very common programming task is converting Google Sheets or an Excel sheet where multiple people work on into a web app just because it becomes unmanageable, right? And so I've heard this problem multiple times where a client comes in and says, "Hey, I've been using this Google Sheet to manage my clients, to manage my kind of workflow, marketing stuff, maybe to manage students in an edtech company." And at some point, I feel like this is getting big enough, and people are working on this file, and there are a lot of mistakes in the file. And I thought, what is the easiest way to kind of get this up and running as a web app? Now, if you you could always go ahead and build a Next.js app and run a API in Express or Fast API, but the UI component is not really useful or doesn't really matter to the end user. So Django Admin comes in very handy for this use case. So we'll try and create a Django Admin application for a, let's say, an edtech company that runs boot camps, right? And they kind of need to store their bootcamp data and who's attending their boot camps, and they need to store student data, etc., etc. Now, what we'll try and do is code this out, and yeah, let's get started. So I have an empty directory here. I'll just create a Django project. Before that, I'll create an empty directory. I'm going to say mkdir. I'm going to say edtech. There's some edtech company finding it difficult to manage their bootcamp, their students. They're like very small, but they do not want to spend a lot of money building their web applications. Now, let's create a virtual env. Let's say source env suspensions activate. Let's install Django. Let me just make it slightly small, and let me just deactivate and put in tmux. Let's just bring that. Let's go and activate that. And let's just say Python. I need to create a Django application first. I'm going to say Django admin start project. I'll just call it core. It's a very common pattern. I'm going to say Python. If I just ls that, I'm going to say Python 3 manage the py run server, and we have that running. Let me just bring that to the screen. There you go. I've got that there, right? And what do I need to do? I need to start creating my application. So let's say I need two applications. I need to manage students. I need to manage boot camps, right? So let's say I've got two applications. You can always kind of do it and one application doesn't really matter. So let's just do it at two applications. So let's create our first application, which is students, and I would say Django admin start app student. Let's say student, and we have that. Let me just restart my server. And there you go. I've got a student directory here. And every time you create a application, you go to your settings.py, you add that in your installed application. So I'm going to say student. And so now the Django knows that's the new application, and it will just track the models and stuff. So let's just start working with the models because that's the meat of our application. And we already have a SQLite database, created by default by Django. So that's good. So yeah, let's create a student model. So it's like student table on the database. So I'm going to say class student model, and let's say every student has a name. So I'm going to say name.most.char field. We will give it a max length of, let's say, 5, so 1024. Doesn't really matter how many characters you give. Email equals, let's say, email field. It's just char field with some validation that Django does for you. And I will say the email needs to be unique, right? We do not want duplicate emails. And what else do we need? We have this. We've got a name. We've got email. Let's say we do. Is the student active, right? Like, let's say the student joined, and now like a student's not currently studying with the edtech company. So let's just say active equals small student boolean field, right? And that's good. And we'll do created date and updated date. So every time we do some updations, we'll say created date equals small start date time field, and I need all So now add. So automatically every time, so say Django slide small Django feature. I'm gonna say updated DT or now equals true. So that will kind of make sure that every time I update in my Django admin that updates you created date and updated date. And string representation would be returns str of self dot name. What else do we need? So say class meta. We don't really need this. We'll just put that there. Name plural equals student. What else do we need? So we've got a student, we got name, email, active. Let's say we need to store some additional student information. So I'm gonna say information equals models dot text field. Cool. What else? We'll just start with that and say we'll just create the tables using make migrations and migrate. So that's doing the default migrations and creating the student model. We will run the server, and let me just add those in the admin.py so that we can actually use it. So I'm going to say from students.models, from student.models import student. I'm going to say class student admin.model admin. There are multiple ways to do this. Let's just do it this way. I'm going to say admin.site.register. uh, Give the name of the model and the extended admin model. So we have that. How about we just take a look, right? I think we'll need to create a super user. So we will do that. So I'm gonna say Python manager, Python 3 manager py create super user. Uh, what's that? Typo create super user. I'm gonna say hello at email.com. I'm gonna say hello. We'll just bypass that and we'll run our server. I'm gonna say hello and hello. There you go, right? We are inside the Django admin. Let's go inside the student model. We've got options to add the student. We've got email, active information. The created date and updated date by default, Django kind of hides it. So, and because we've set auto now add and auto now, it takes care of that, of the updating part. So, like it doesn't mess up. We did unintentionally does not mess up our dates. So let's say name is hello. We'll just give hello at email.com. Let's say students active. Just say information. Let's say student is from Italy and save that. This shows the student, but let's just do some modifications here so that it looks much better. So let's say we've got the student model and I want to display the email and if the student's active. So I will do that with the student admin model. I'm going to say let's display equals the name and email and active. And let's just refresh that. We have that there, but that's cool. Now let's say I want to edit the status active status of a couple of students. So I want to say list editable for that. Editable equals active, and that would take care of that. So that's this student's active. Let's just add student two. Let's just say some run dummy item. There you go. The student's active, and we can just do this, and that takes care of that for us, right? This is cool. Now, let's say I need to add some additional stuff, right? Let's say I need a student remarks model, remarks, right? Where I need to kind of store some information about a student. Let's say the student requires some personal attention, or there's some additional detail or something the student wants to focus on, right? So let's just create that model. Okay, so I'm gonna say class student remarks. I'm gonna say models.model. Let's just remove the s and we'll say the student equals models.foreign key because it belongs to some student, every student, right? on delete equals models dot, let's say cascade, like the moment we remove a student, we will remove the ستحتاج إلى فتح قفل آيفون. We will remove the student as we'll reduce remove the student as well. And what else? So if I do this, what's happening? Okay, let me just remove that. And we have the remark, which is a text field, models dot text field. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say we'll just have this string representation. Let's say return self dot student dot name, right? And what else? I'm gonna say class meta. Let me just copy that from here. And so student, I'm gonna say student remarks. Cool. What else can we do? So let me just register that here. I'm gonna say student remark. I will copy this and say student admin. We'll do student remark admin, and I'll do that pass student remark and say student remark. What else? So we will. So what's the problem here? Is the student again? There's no issues. We will run the migrations to create the student remark model. Make migrations Python 3 manage.py migrate. That's done. I'm gonna say Python 3 manage.py run server, and let's go ahead and check this out. We've got the student remarks model. Let's just tag this to hello student and save that. There you go. We've got a remark there. Now what if I want to see all the remarks of the student from the student model, right? And there's this really cool feature called inlines. So I'm going to create, what I'm going to do is say class. Django is like really powerful in this for this type of work, you know. So I'm going to say student remark inline. I'm going to say admin dot stacked inline. There's called something called tabular inline too. We'll just use stacked inline. I'm going to say model equals student remark, right? And I'm going to go to the student admin and say inlines equals student remark inline. And how about we just refresh that? And there you go, right? We've got multiple remarks, right? So let me just set the extra parameter to 0. So I'm going to say extra equals 0. And there you go, right? So let's say we have these, okay, we already have a student remarks. If I go into hello, it actually shows me all the remarks here, right? So let's say I add another student remark. So I'm gonna say hello and just put some random stuff. Say if I go to student hello, it actually shows me that here, right? Now I can actually delete it, do some work from here. I could always customize the model form used for this and make this a lot better. But you get the idea. So let's say we're done with the student. That's all we need to need with the student. Let's say we need to kind of manage the courses provided to the student. Let's say the courses are provided in the form of, let's say the edtech company runs boot camps, and I would want to, do some work on the boot camps application. So I'm going to say create an application first. So I'm going to say Python, let's say Django admin, admin start app, boot camps, and we have that there. Let me just start my server like we did earlier. Every time you create an application, you go to the settings.py, you add that to the installed apps, boot camps, and we will start with the models. So let's say our models is called class bootcamp, models.model, and we'll say bootcamp has a title. I'll say this is just a name, models.charField, max length equals 250. let's say, has a description equals mouse dot text field, and the bootcamp is run, let's say, a single day, and it's on conducted on some date. So I'm going to say date equals mouse dot datetime field, and let's say initially, let's say we create, and we should be able to kind of set, like, not set a date. So I'm going to say date for that. We'll set null equals true for that, and we've got a name, we've got description, and we'll say updated date and created date. Right, we'll just grab that from the student model. I'm going to say this. I'm going to copy this. Right, and we have that. I'm going to say def str. Let me just copy that too, and say name. I'm going to say the verbose name pro is going to be bootcamp. And cool. So let's see. So we have that, and we will migrate, do the migration. So I'll say Python 3 manage.py make migrations. We will migrate. We will run a server to confirm. We will, obviously we need to create the admin for this. So we'll just grab some boilerplate code from in here. I'm going to copy that, go to my bootcamps, go to admin, do that, and I will remove this. I can remove this. I can rename this to bootcamp admin, and I will remove this. Bootcamp admin, bootcamp. I'm going to say from bootcamps.models import bootcamp. That should do it. So go admin.site or register bootcamp. Let me just restart it. Cool. Let's see if that appears. There you go. We've got the bootcamp's application here and the bootcamp model. Let's create a bootcamp. Let's say introduction, just a random description, and save. Okay, this field is quiet. That's weird. I think we need to set null equals true and blank equals true. For now, we'll just give this and say save. And there you go, right? We have the bootcamp name, description, and date. What we will do is add a couple of stuff. Let's say I want to see the date here. So I'm going to list display equals name, created date, and updated date. Let me just refresh that, and there you go, right? We can actually see the created date and the updated values of that object. And what else can we do here? So let's say we need a model to store the students who are actually joined in the bootcamp. So we will go ahead and create a model for that. So let's say, what do we call it? We'll call it bootcamp attendees. I'm going to say attendees. I'm going to say model, and each attendee, like each student, belongs to some bootcamp. So I'm going to say bootcamp equals cam equals models dot foreign key, and I will do models dot, no, I need to give the name of the bootcamp. So I'm going to say bootcamp name, not name, what am I doing name? So I'm going to say on delete equals models dot set null. I'll just do that, and null equals true, obviously. Null equals true. I need to give the student tool, just import the students model. So students from student.models import student, and I will say the student is student. Cool. And what else do we need? We'll just set the class meta. We will set that to bootcamp attendees. And what else? Officially, we'll just go ahead and create the migration. So manage.py make migrations. Python 3 manage.py. migrate. We will run the server, right? And we need to register in our admin. We will do this pass bootcamp attendees admin. I will say bootcamp attendees. We'll go and copy these. Let me just come down. There you go. And if I copy this, there you go. I have that. Let me just refresh the page. What is the issue? Bootcamp attendees. Okay, we will restart the server. We got bootcamp attendees, and okay, there you go. We have bootcamp introduction, the student hello, save, and we have that object there. Now, let's say just like we did with the student and student remarks, I want to see which attendees have registered for the bootcamp, right? So we can again go ahead and use an inline for that. So I'm gonna say class inline, say bootcamp inline, bootcamp attendees inline line, and say admin dot stacked line. I will say the model would be bootcamp attendees, and I could just copy this and go inlines. Lines equals this. I'm gonna say extra equals 0, and let's see if that works. You go into the bootcamp, and there you go. Right, you can actually see the student registered for that bootcamp there. Now, there are a lot of things you could extend. You could actually play around with the filtering part, with the sorting parts. You can have like filters on the right side. You can actually filter by text, filter by these columns by default here. You could create custom actions that would, run through your data and do custom manipulations. A lot of really cool stuff. Thank you for so much for watching.